Welcome, everyone, to the Betty Eats podcast. It's so nice to have you here. We have a special guest today, Erin Henderson of the Quaintrelle newsletter on Substack. And I am going to let Erin introduce herself and tell you a little bit about who she is and what she does. Welcome, Erin.
Well, thank you, Betty. I'm really touched and flattered and honored to be here. I hope that I provide some sort of amusement or entertainment, possibly education, but I think that's a bridge too far. But just to introduce myself to all your wonderful listeners, my name's Erin. I'm Erin Henderson. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I'm currently the owner of a company called the Wine Sisters, which is a wine events and sommelier services company. Now, before I became a sommelier, and if anybody doesn't know what a sommelier just means I've studied wine, and that sommeliers are, I always hate the word expert. That just sounds so self-congratulatory, but I guess for lack of a better descriptor, that's sort of what I specialize in, is wine. And anyway, but before that, this is my second career. My first career was actually in journalism. And before that, from ages 0 through to university, I was actually a drama major, and I really thought I was going to be an actress. I was
Wow.
waitressing. Yeah, well, I was waitressing one day at the Red Lobster, and there was no shade in that game. I was a server for a very long time, and it is a hard job. But as I was working, and I thought, I really love acting. I really do. But as I'm punching in the fish and chips orders, and I thought, but I don't love it enough that I could do this for the rest of my life while pursuing acting. So I went to journalism school, and I became a journalist. And I was a journalist for about 10 years. And I specialized not in food and wine journalism, even though I tried to. Ironically, or somewhat ironically, my bosses said there's no such thing as food journalism, which we all know is clearly not how things worked out. But I was a journalist, and I specialized in politics and crime. So basically the same thing. And so I did that for a really long time, and everybody else was having way more fun than me. My sister was already a sommelier working in one of Toronto's great hotels. My dad, we grew up with wine. My dad was largely in sales and marketing and importing wines into Canada. And I was like, they're having way more fun than I am. And if you've ever met a proper journalist in your life, you know that the only thing we are better at than getting divorced is having a drink. So I thought, I'll take this sort of hobby and I'll turn it into a profession, trade in my microphone for a corkscrew. And I went back to school to be a sommelier. But by this point, I was already had adult obligations. I was already in my early 30s. I had a mortgage. I had somebody, I had people that I needed to respond to, and adult obligations. So I actually was flipping a coin, literally flipping a coin, saying, do I go to chef school or do I go to sommelier school? And if you know the ins and outs of a restaurant industry, it ultimately boiled down to me saying to myself, look, I know how restaurants are. I've worked in restaurants a long time. I am not at a stage in my life where I can spend 15 hours a day making $8 an hour peeling onions. Like it just like that's the starting thing of a chef. So I decided sommelier might be a little bit more responsible. So I went to school to be a sommelier, worked really hard. And then I worked for a few other people. I worked in some leading restaurants and private clubs. And then I decided about 12 years ago to open up the Wine Sisters. But because you can take the girl out of journalism, but not the journalist out of the girl, I started writing a column for Huffington Post. I've been back on Canadian television.
In your case where everything has kind of come together and what you do now, I am so curious about the name of your newsletter and how you came to that. So can you tell about that?
It's one of my favorite words. So my newsletter is called Quaintrelle. Years ago, I work in the wine industry, and there's a lot of really interesting characters in the world in general, but it seems like there's even more interesting characters in the wine industry. And I was talking to a few friends of mine who work in the same industry I do, and there's one guy who everybody adores, and I can't name him because he may be insulted by this. but he's just such a character, and in the best possible way. Like he's smart and he's erudite, and he's quite the snappy dresser. Like in a former year, you might have called him a dandy, like the kind of guy who would wear like bow ties and tweed jackets and things like that. And because and we always are sort of like, but what does he do really? Like anyway, so a friend of mine, he said, and the word in French would be flaneur. So sort of a man who flits about, is very social, sort of doesn't
Mm.
really work, and just sort of has nobody really knows where the money comes from, but just sort of loves and enjoys life. And I was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not a man, and I identify as being a woman. So anyway, so eventually, as the universe delivers, the word Quaintrelle came across my purview, and that was a few years ago, and I love the word. And can I read it to you what it
Mm.
means? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Quaintrelle means, let me just, I didn't bring my glasses either, which is what I'm trying to read it, but it's a woman who emphasizes a life of pleasure, passion, empowered through personal style, leisurely pastimes, charm, and the cultivation of pleasures. So I kind of butchered that because it's in very small writing and I don't have my glasses on. But I just thought this is the way that I want to live my life. This is the way that I
Mm.
try to live my life. I know that there's many hardships in the world right now. I know that the world
Mm.
can be a tough place. I happen to be an optimist. Sometimes that trips into delusion, but I'd like to believe that despite what the news cycles and, the constant barrage of online everything might suggest to us, I believe there's more good than there is bad in the world.
Mhm.
And while I just want to have a life that is one that is designed by me, for me, not for anybody else, but and I hope my wish would be everybody else lives a life of their own design as well, but just
Yeah.
to have a fulfilling life of the things that I love and the things that bring me joy. And obviously, that's going to be different for everyone. For me, that means art, that means food, that means wine, that means social gatherings. But that's really how I want to live my life. And I think if that brings me joy and I can be more joyous, well, the more joyous people there are in the world, well, then wouldn't that just naturally mean there's more joy in the world, period? Does that make sense to
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
So,
And I think that that is such a good descriptor because I feel like, when I read your newsletter, I feel like that is exactly what it's about, is the pleasures in life and the good things in life, the optimistic things in life. So I think that is very apropos, very apt. So, but yeah.
when I've been writing my newsletter, where if I'm in a bit of a poopy pants mood, and we all get in poopy pants moods, where I have a million drafts in my draft folder where it was just like a whole, and sometimes that can be very cathartic where you can just let it rip. But then I read them back and I think this is not what I want to put out into the world. I don't want to put out this kind of acerbic or cruel or biting. That's not helpful to anybody. And it's certainly, and I think if I were to put that out into the world, I'd be embarrassed looking back on that. So it's not, I don't want to be too Pollyanna. I don't want to be too false, but I don't
Right.
think I want to represent myself in a way that comes from completely negative, catty. Like I just don't want to be I don't want to harsh the party vibe. That's it. You know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. I think we're in the same boat. I kind of feel the same way. It's just, that's not who I am. 90% of the time we do all have our moments, but yeah, you want to also have your newsletter be reflective of who you are, the majority of the time. So I love that. Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
do let people know that I can't stand when people talk on speakerphone. I mean, that's something that I just have to declare publicly.
That's universal.
Is that if everybody hates it, how are people still doing it? Like
I don't
constantly.
know. Yeah.
And to the millions who are listening right now, do not speak on speakerphone. There's headphones for a reason. My God.
That's pretty funny.
Right? So
You mentioned earlier, before we started recording, how you do love to travel, and you've recently been to Paris and had a wonderful time.
I did.
Um, yeah, but
Shocking.
it is so it's so interesting. You had mentioned that on your previous trip to Paris, Were you actually arrested or or almost
You want to
arrested?
hear the story? It's so
Yes.
insane. And I did
Yes.
get clearance from my sister because kind of her fault. But when I was writing about a year ago, I wrote a Substack about it, about this whole situation that went down. But then I had to alter it so much because I didn't want to throw my sister under the bus. And then I got way too in my head about it. Like I'm like as if I'm so important. But so this is the story. And it is a great story. I'm going to try and truncate it, but I've never met a microphone I didn't like. So you may have your editing cut out for you, Betty. Okay. So I actually love Paris. I adore Paris. And I'm happy that I went to Paris this time because I was nervous about Paris because my first time in 2019 was not the same experience. So what happened was in 2019, we were in Paris and it was my sister, her husband, and me. We were traveling together and we were going to go do a day of true tourism things. Stop by the Eiffel Tower. There's this great boat cruise down the Seine, which is this beautiful dinner cruise, and you go by all the sites. I actually would do it again. It was really fabulous. So in the
Mm.
morning, we set out, we go to the metro, we buy our tickets through the machine. This is important. My brother in law takes the receipt out of the machine and goes to throw it away. And I said to him, don't keep the receipt. And he said, well, why, like we've got our tickets. Like, and I said, just keep the receipt. If we don't need it, we can throw it out at the end of the day, but it's a piece of paper. Just keep it in your pocket. Fine. We go about our day. We have a fantastic day, seeing the sights. Everything is gorgeous in Paris, of course. We get on this boat cruise, which I, again, cannot recommend enough. It's delicious food. This is the thing, like in Canada, I think in the United States, you guys are a little bit more lucky in the sense that you're not quite as rigid about your alcohol rules. Here in Canada,
Mm.
bartenders and servers and restaurants, there's actually a line on the glass and they will pour to that line and not a
Oh, I didn't know.
millimeter more, like right there. They don't give you it, let alone an inch. They don't give you a millimeter, not a drop more. Anyway, so we were told, it's a 3 course and a wine per course. That's fine. So I would drink my wine. I'd put it down. I'd look down. It had been miraculously refilled. Like it was a never ending glass. And I thought this was just terrific. I'd never experienced such glory in my life. So needless to say, we get off the boat, 4 hours later or something, toasted, like completely toasted. And so that's fine because they just didn't stop pouring wine. I thought it was fabulous. And of course, you don't have to drink it, but it'd be rude not to. So I did. Anyway, so we get off the boat. We see, the lit up, it's nighttime, the lit up Eiffel Tower, everything's gorgeous, we're having a lovely time. We get on at the Eiffel Tower subway station, which is called the Bir Hakim, I think it's called. And anyway, so don't forget, we have our passes. Right before we left as well, in Toronto, Canada, where I live, we just put in these electric things for our subway called Presto, doesn't matter. They were notoriously bad. Like the gates wouldn't open, people would get locked in a subway station, panic would ensue. So we were used to gates not opening and broken things. So anyway, so I put my ticket in, the door is open, fine. Duarte, that's my brother-in-law, he puts his ticket in, the door's open. My sister puts her ticket in and it's rejected. But don't forget, we have the receipt. We bought full passes for the day. Fine.
Mm.
Well, we look around and everyone's jumping the turnstiles, which, by the way, they still do to this day. So anyway, everyone's jumping the turnstiles. We know that we've paid. We have the receipts to prove it. So Courtney, like my sister was like, well, okay, I'll jump the turnstile. Yes, we had a bit of wine. And yes, we know it's technically wrong. But we had the receipt and it wasn't working and no one was there to help us. So what is one to do? So we go through, and there's thousands, hundreds of people in this. It's just swarming with people. I feel a hand on my shoulder, and it says, "Madame, you have to stop." So this woman stops us, and she's kind of a short little lady in a sort of beige outfit, and she sort of looks semi-official. And she says, "You jump the turnstile. That's an offense. You owe us 60 euros in cash. No credit cards, no debit. 60 euros in cash." And I said, Madame, I'm so sorry. We know that's wrong, but look, here's our receipt that shows, here's our ticket. Like, here's our receipts. Here's our day passes that we purchased. She wouldn't have it. I was like, no, listen. She says, we need your passports. Now, of course, you don't travel with passports. I mean, we traveled with passports, but of course we left them out. We weren't traveling on the street with our passports. I took out my Canadian driver's license and said, no, Madame, I'm so sorry. Look, I'm Canadian. Everybody loves Canadians. Like, don't hurt us. And she said, no. And she said, no, you owe us 60 euros right now, cash. And I said, no, I want to see my embassy. Again, fueled with the bravado of a few glasses of wine. I was like, no, I want to see my embassy then. And she said, no, madame, you don't want to see the police. You don't want them to be called. I said, actually, I do. I'm not paying you 60 euros. Anyway, so one thing led to another. She said, okay, well then you all owe us 60 euros. Now you owe us 180 euros. Cash, no
No.
credit cards. So this goes on for a while. And I'm insisting on seeing my embassy. And she's saying no. And she took my driver's license and wouldn't give it back. All of these things. It was really horrific. My brother-in-law, he's really street savvy. He's a very, very nice guy, but he's very street savvy, and he's not one to let people take advantage of him. So this is another foreshadowing. He was wearing a bright turquoise polo t-shirt. So he looked to my sister and I, and he said, walk away. Don't forget, there's hundreds of people filing through the subway system. And he says, walk away. He said, just walk away. And we were like, what? Just walk away. So we walk away, and we go, and there's catacombs everywhere, all kinds of different bus lines and subway lines. And so we jump on we go down this, take a left, take a right. We find a subway, a bus thing, jump on it. And then we realize, well, he's left behind, but he has our keys. He has everything. How are we going to find him again? He has our phone. He has everything. So anyway, through all of these hordes and hordes of people, all of a sudden I see a bright turquoise blue shirt come drifting through the crowds. We scream out, what? We scream out for it. He jumps on the bus or the subway, whatever we were on. Anyway, he jumps on and we leave. And we just sort of, well, anyway, so that was in June of 2019. That following September, I get this very formal letter in France at my home in Toronto from France, all in French. I'm panicking. Oh my gosh. I like to panic first and ask questions later. And I'm like, oh my God, they're never going to let me in the country again. I'm never going to see champagne. Or, we took it to a friend who is very fluent in French. And she said, oh, did you lose your license? Because they're offering to send it back. If you pay 20 euros, they'll send your driver's license back. And so that was the story of leaving a bit of a poor taste in my mouth of Paris.
That is so crazy. Well, I was going to say it sounds kind of sketchy at first because it's like she looks kind of official, but it's like, where's your uniform or badge or whatever? And like, anybody could just walk up and go, pay me 60 euros. Yeah, cash. Like,
We did some research into it afterwards. It actually is a thing. It's a fairly draconian Parisian rule. They are, I guess, blessed by the city, but they do target tourists, and they do hang out at those. Everywhere, every station in Paris is there's tourists everywhere, but they do go to those really, like the Disney stop and the Eiffel Tower stop. And there's reams of stuff online where people, like, there was a family coming from Disney and they had to pay 1,000 euros. It's like, so somebody else was stopped because they were walking the wrong way down a ramp or something. And you just think, this is insane. So I will say, if anybody from Paris is listening and getting upset about this is not a slam against the city. This is a bizarre draconian rule that is usually not, I think if they tried to do this to actual Parisians, that would probably not work out. But for tourists, I would say just be a little bit more aware. And because when I came the second time, this is another thing. Their subway system, well, I will say it is very efficient and once you're actually in it. But the bureaucracy and the ticket process of actually trying to get into it, it happened to me again and again and again, where my ticket was just rejected. It wasn't working. So many Parisians were so kind that they'd hold the door open for me, or they'd say, just follow close to me, because they knew that it didn't work either. One time I was getting on the bus and it just wasn't clicking or working or going through. The bus driver smiled, looked out the window, and I took that as my sign to just get on. He didn't, so it's just like it's a crazy little system.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all my dirty laundry about Parisian transport. Yeah.
That seems to happen, though, like you were talking about how in Toronto they have that. So my mom lives in New York, and so I go and visit her a couple times a year, and I noticed that too a lot. We'll put the Metro card on the thing and scan it, and I know it has money on it, but it doesn't always open. And so it's kind of like, okay,
Yeah,
what's my choice here? Go buy another, Metro card or ticket or yeah.
yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
so it's not a perfect system. I'm certainly not a perfect person, but that's the story of. But um, now that I've done that, the I was in Paris for eight days, and then the book ended our trip. So I was in 8 days in Paris, and then back for another 2 days before flying home. So 10 days total, and I have to say that I didn't have to do those tourists. Like we've already been to the Louvre, um,
Mm,
we've already been to the Eiffel Tower. I didn't have to revisit those things. So just hanging out in the neighborhoods and
mm.
wandering around the parks, and it was really a lovely, lovely experience. Lovely
Um,
experience.
yeah.
Not the metro,
Oh.
lovely experience. Yeah. So
Well, you talked a little bit about owning this wine company. I mean, was the trip to Paris kind of a little bit, was it all pleasure, or was it there also some business that you were doing for your wine company,
so we
or
always
no?
do business. My business is fun.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
I I also am a wine instructor at a college here in Toronto. So
Oh,
so whenever we go place, like I'm lucky enough to have a job that's truly something I love. Like, even if you love being an accountant, for example, rarely do you say, let's go to Hawaii so I can examine their ancient abacuses, or, like you just don't do that.
yeah.
But when you're lucky enough to work in something like food or wine or art, you would travel somewhere and you would say, well, let's go visit this restaurant, or let's go visit this
Mm.
winery, or let's go visit this museum or this art gallery, because it's fun, but it does also build the knowledge of my profession. So, um,
Right.
yeah, so we were in Paris. Then we went on to Champagne, and then so of course visiting champagne houses and things like that. And then we went to Alsace, which I must say, if you are a
Oh.
traveler and if you like
Mm.
food and if you like wine, I knew Alsace would be lovely. Like I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be great. Of course, it'll be. It is spectacular. It is spectacular. It blew my mind. And I would have to
Mm.
say that Strasbourg, the capital of Alsace, is
Mhm.
now one of my favorite food cities.
Wow.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's great.
Adding adding that to the list of
You
places.
must, you must. And it's like Paris is quite expensive, just
Yeah.
the nature of being in a big city. Strasbourg, even though it's the capital city, I find it really affordable. Like it's really great. And you land in Paris, you get on the fast train, you're there in 2 hours.
Oh,
It's parfait. It's
oh,
perfect.
nice.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, you talked a little bit about the wine courses that you teach. What would somebody learn in a course like that? What through the university? Is it like a
So
for
I teach at a place called George Brown College, which is one of Canada's leading hospitality colleges. So most of the great chefs in Ontario, possibly Canada, have come out of George Brown. There's certainly others, just in case somebody else is like, what about Stratford? No, there's some really great cooking colleges, hospitality colleges in Canada. George Brown is definitely where I teach. It's definitely, I think most people would say it's definitely in the top five.
Mhm.
So we have an amazing chefs program. We have an incredible wine program. I obviously teach in the wine program, but I do take advantage of my teacher's discount to take the cooking courses from
Oh,
amazing
wow.
instructors. Oh yeah, it's fabulous. And so right now, one of my favorite courses to teach is something called Wines for Beginners. And I've been after the college for a while, although no one listens to me. I'd like to call it Wine Foundations because it's a really cool course. It's 6 weeks.
Mhm.
The people who come are really engaged and interested and earnest,
Mhm.
and they haven't had an opportunity to get to that I know more than you stage. Um, but it's literally like we talk about the foundations of tasting, what we're looking for in the building blocks of wine, how to appreciate
Mhm.
wine, a little bit about the history of wine, food and wine pairings, and the principles behind that. Some really high level stuff on the basics of winemaking. Um, it's I think it's a really cool course. I think it's really great. And that's one of my favorite courses to teach. But in my own at the Wine Sisters at my company, I run my own wine school as well. Of
Oh,
course, I don't have the same accreditation. Like at a proper college and university, you obviously get certifications and diplomas and degrees and things like that. For
mhm.
my business, these are just wine tasting workshops that you come and you learn, but you're obviously not going to get. I don't have any kind of like government credentials to give you,
Yeah.
a paper of some sort. I could, but it doesn't mean anything. So, and through my own wine school, and that wine school, we've aimed because over the 12 years or so, 13 years that I've run my business, and also through teaching more formal courses at the college,
Mm.
I've noticed from both our clients as well as the students, the questions kind of are the same. And so my wine school that the Wine Sisters has developed, it's our sort of byline or our subhead is for people who are big on wine but short on time. Like you just want to know if
Oh,
Chianti is a grape or a place. You don't want to like write a dissertation on it. So people who come to those workshops are people who are busy doing whatever else in their life. They don't have 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 4 years to dedicate to a formalized program or course, but they just want to cherry pick. Oh, you're doing something about a tasting tour of Italy. I'd like to learn a little bit more about Italy. I'd like to learn a little bit more about France. I'd like to learn more about food and wine pairing. So those are more sort of like more consumer driven courses, just teaching people some fundamentals. So when they go to their friend's house on a Saturday night, they can bring a cool bottle of wine and explain a little bit about it.
yeah.
That's what that
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
That sounds like it's for kind of somebody who is just an aficionado who just loves it and really, wants to know more about it versus somebody who maybe, like you said, is looking for a certification or
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's
Sometimes people are
fun.
just looking to celebrate a birthday or celebrate an
Yeah,
anniversary and they like wine, so why not? So,
yeah.
so we give them, my goal is that for every course, for every workshop, if you can walk
Mhm.
away with 3 things, even though I might teach 10 things, nobody's going to retain everything. So if you can walk away with 3 things having absorbing that, that's a win. Like I probably
Yeah.
you're only going to take away one major thing, but if you can do 3, that's a huge win, but one is fine.
Yeah. So as we obviously are going into this holiday season, and really this is year round, but especially this time of year, people do host more, I think. I would love to hear some tips of things that you always do to be prepared or that you just think would be really helpful for maybe somebody like me who is a little bit like, eh,
Yeah.
not always
Well, I
comfortable.
I think you're being self-deprecating because I think that you have a lovely, lovely taste in food and you have it seems to me that you have a nice comfort around your own kitchen. So I think you're being slightly self-deprecating, but we will go with that. Let's just create an avatar of somebody who is uncomfortable or
Yeah.
not doesn't commonly entertain. And I do come at it from I'm lucky because I've spent 15 let me see, I got my sommelier in 2008, but even before that, I was entertaining at home. But I guess I've been yes, 2008 to 2025 is 17 years. Is that 17 years? So anyway,
Yeah.
17? Yeah. So I have had the benefit of working professionally, throwing everything from, you know, general meetings to bridal showers to weddings to all of these things. And then, of course, I have my home stuff as well. So if I were to offer tips or tricks or maybe just offer not a condolence, but a validation or a pat on the back,
Mm.
number one, we always know this. Everybody's going to tell you this. Get it done ahead of time. But people are like, "Oh, how can I get it done ahead of time? I'm making souffle." Okay. What I'm going to tell you is I have a friend coming over for dinner I'm doing a little dinner party on a Monday night. And when I say dinner party, people automatically go, oh my God, it's a dinner party. I really like
Yeah.
the words dinner party. I know that there are people out there who refuse to use words like dinner party or entertaining. They just say having people over. Sure, whatever works best for you. But you know what I'm making? I'm making shepherd's pie. And I think I put that out on my newsletter a couple of newsletters ago, but I
Yeah.
have these little crusade pots. You
Mm.
can make a great big lasagna pan full if you want. It doesn't matter to me. I just think it kind of everybody loves mini individual things, and I have them, so it's no extra work for me. But it kind of does give it a little bit of elevation. My point though
Mm.
is that 2 or 3 things that are sort of sub from that. One, do not make something new ever.
Yeah.
Like, do not, I know those shiny, glossy magazines at the grocery checkout. You're like, I can do a croquet bouche. No, like, no. What you can do is do something. Everybody loves homey. Like, people think that when they're, so tip number one, do not make something brand new. Make
Mm,
something that you're very comfortable and you've made before. Not
yeah.
once before, but a couple of times before. And that might
Mm,
be what you consider really this old thing, because it's your family's favorite chili or the chicken soup or whatever you've got going on. I honestly think if people, especially in this day and age, like things are so crazy and hairy, people love comfort food because they want to
mm,
be comforted. And when they come to your house, they want to feel that same comfort. Nobody wants to be rigid. Nobody wants to, have their corset on and their pinkies up and, their white gloves and saying, oh, yes, no, sir. No, you want to relax with your friends and your family. And so if you're
yeah.
having people over, whatever your zhuzh is. So maybe you do a really great lasagna, maybe you do a really great spaghetti and meatballs, maybe you do really great
Mm,
tamales. I don't know. Whatever you've
mhm,
got, pick something from the, because we all know this. We all cook the same five things over and over again. Maybe you leave tomatoes out of that one and maybe you add beans to that one every once in a while to really like go crazy. But you've got your core 5 or 10 recipes. Stick with your core
mm,
5 or 10 recipes and serve that,
mhm,
because if you do it well, you know you're going to be able to make it work for your guests and you know it's going to taste good.
yeah.
I wrote about this not too long ago, talking about the difference between dinner parties and like, or what we would call good and like company worthy. And I'm like, company worthy is the same as family worthy. And I think that if you were to make a beef bourguignon, which is a beef stew, if you were to make a coq au vin, which is a chicken stew, if you were to make a
Mhm,
lasagna, which we all know what that is, if you were to make a chili, if you were these braises, soups, and stews, which everyone loves, you make them the day
mhm,
before because they're better the next day. You make them the day before, it's done, it's good, you have nothing to do but relax. I really can't
yeah.
stress that enough. I think people put way too much pressure on themselves because they see what's happening on the Food Network or they see what's happening in magazines,
Yeah.
which are designed to be aspirational, or they see what's happening in a kitchen. But I'll tell you from experience, and anybody would know this, kitchens, they
Mhm,
call it a brigade for a reason. So there's more than one
mm,
person. And even if it's a smaller kitchen that only has a handful of people working in there, you have someone to do the dishes, you have someone to do the prep, you have somebody on the fish line, somebody on the meat line, somebody on the pasta line, somebody on the salad. You have a bunch of people so that when everybody
mhm,
at your table of 4 or 6 or 8, everybody gets their food at the same time and it's hot and it's good and it's whatever. It's because there's literally an army of people making it for you and then cleaning it up afterwards. At
yeah,
home
very
for
true.
one, possibly two. Don't do that to yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a very good point. And I think I know I have been guilty of that, of wanting to make something new and exciting and flashy. And so, yeah, that causes stress for sure.
When you think about it, and obviously we just passed the American Thanksgiving, people who celebrate Christmas, that's going to be coming up in another couple of weeks. Everybody's like, no, no, we want Aunt Myrtle's famous spinach dip. We want Grandpa's egg casserole. We want, Mom's great turkey. You want the things that the people you love make, and it's that thing that you've attached to the individual, whomever that individual is, and
Hmm.
whatever that plate is. And you want that. You don't want. You'd be so
Hmm.
mad if Aunt Myrtle was like, guys, I didn't do my spinach dip. What I did is I did a crab dip. You're like, no, no, Myrtle, we want it to have the spinach dip. Don't go rogue. We want the spinach, not the crab. Go home, change it, and come back. Right? That's what you want.
Yes, yes, that
No.
is so true.
Yeah. So I say cling to that. Embrace it, love it, own it.
Hmm. Yeah. So don't make anything new
Yeah.
and prep ahead.
Make it ahead. Don't make anything new, and embrace the mundane. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be Martha Stewart. But that being said as well, I was at a dinner at a girlfriend's house in the summer. 5 or 6 of us came over. She's not somebody who desires to cook. She ordered
Mhm.
from her favorite Greek restaurant. And you know what? We all had a great time.
Yeah.
It's fun. People are there to see
Yeah.
you. They're not there to judge your kebab. And if they are, then they don't get invited back.
And that's a really good point. That I'm glad that you brought that up because it really is about the friends and the conversation and just that time together. And it's not so much of like, oh, let's see if she got this rice correct or the risotto or, whatever.
Hmm.
That's not what people are there for. They're there to have a good time and relax and
And even if you
enjoy.
have those stressful people coming over, like let's just
Mhm.
use the evil mother-in-law as the avatar, right? That's the one that shows up in all the Hollywood, the Hollywood holiday movies and stuff. The one who's gonna be like, her brisket was a bit tough or whatever. Um, the Chevy Chase turkey exploding at Christmas or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
If you have difficult people in your life, now of course everybody's situation is different, and I am not a therapist, I'm a drinker, so kind of the same thing. But sometimes you just have to let that go and just be like, okay, well, we know that mother-in-law or, you know, cousin Frank is always going to be difficult. That's their
Hmm.
comfort zone, is to be a difficult person. And so now
Hmm.
I know that I can already
Yeah.
anticipate it happening. So whatever, like that's who cares? Like that's what they're going to do. They're still showing up, but they're still going to be grumpy. Not my problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really great advice. And
Easier
yeah.
said than done. I know that some people really do have tense moments with their family, and for that I'm very sorry. I'm very close to my family, but I would think that if it's manageable enough that they're coming to your house still, they're like the Oscar the Grouch character, and that's where they're happiest, is to be grumpy. So just let them be grumpy. It's not your problem.
Yeah. I like that. Not your issue.
Not my
Perhaps the
monkey, not
same
my
goes.
circus.
Yes, that I was just going to say
Yeah.
that. I love that saying.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
so that's how I would approach it.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate those tips. Um, okay, so if you don't mind, maybe we could list some of those dishes you were talking about. Just let's do three, like
Okay.
three normal holiday main entrees, and what type of wine maybe that you would pair with them.
Okay.
Just
So I'll
like
tell you
so
what,
for
you
instance.
tell me the entree and I'll tell you
Okay,
the wine. That'll be fun.
okay, okay, okay. Let's think about. I mean, turkey is not just for Thanksgiving, but what about a roast turkey? What do you think would be a great thing to serve with that?
I'm going to tell you, and we're going to play the game together, but really quickly, I've heard this. Like, so in Canada, roast turkey is a big thing at Christmas, probably because we've had 2 months between Thanksgiving but I've heard that Americans are probably less likely to have turkey because they just have turkey. Is that
Oh,
true?
you know,
I
we
know you don't speak
usually
for every single American, but
yeah, yeah. I think it kind of depends. I know that a lot of people do turkey again at Christmas. I know we do.
yeah,
Um, but there are people, like, especially if they are celebrating Hanukkah, they'll do a
oh,
beef
of course.
brisket.
Yeah.
And then some people do a ham, which I don't know. I think that's maybe less common, but
Maybe, yeah, that's what I heard from somebody, is that I do have a
mm,
few American friends, and they're like, yeah, because you just 4 weeks ago had turkey, you're not going to do turkey again.
yes.
I thought that's kind of interesting. I think that turkey is the main, again, and I don't speak for every single Canadian either. So, but I would say that probably if I was a betting girl, I think turkey is the main big one for those who celebrate Christmas. Ham,
Hmm.
big one. Not a big one, but people will also do both turkey and ham.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and then of course you might have the people who are just going to go rogue where they have sushi or something. But yeah. So for turkey, I'm going to play this back to you. You're going to play along with me, Betty. This is going to be fun.
Okay.
So my
Okay.
very favorite way to pair wine is to use it as an extension of the sauce, because often we will say to wine drinkers, "Oh, you compare or you complement, you contrast. Oh, well, just pick, no." Then people are like, well, what do you mean compare? What do you mean contrast? What do you mean match flavors? This is too much. I can't figure it out because wine just tastes like wine. I can't pick out the cherries or the apples or the lemons or the whatever. So I say, make your wine an extension of the sauce on your dish. So what do I mean by that?
Okay.
So Betty, I'm going to ask you, what are the sauces that you would normally pair with turkey?
Um, it would be a pan gravy,
Okay,
probably.
gravy.
Yeah.
And is gravy, what are the common denominators of gravy? Or what is the flavor or character of gravy? It's creamy, buttery, fatty, silky. It's melted fat.
Yes.
That's what gravy is, right?
Yes, it is melted.
You know,
Yeah, true.
somebody might throw
Yeah.
in rosemary and somebody else might throw in sage, but basically the
Yes.
basics of it is buttery, creamy, gravy, fatty.
Yes.
That's why we love it. So if you're thinking about, and then there's also another sauce that is very common with Thanksgiving turkey or Christmas turkey in general. There's another sauce that people are very commonly pairing.
Oh, like a cranberry sauce.
Cranberry sauce.
Yeah.
Cranberry sauce is usually a mixture of sweet and sour. Cranberries are naturally tart, but there's obviously a little bit of sugar to balance that out. Okay, and it's juicy. So we have gravy, we have cranberry sauce. So wine number one, I'm going to say, what would be a wine that would mimic gravy? Something buttery, something creamy, something rich. What would be buttery, creamy, and rich in terms of wine?
I'm guessing Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, absolutely, right? So, and Chardonnay is so obvious with turkey. Like people don't, white wine, white meat, any kind of meme or philosophy or maxim, that's how it gets together. Is this confusing or is this clear? Is it cool?
No, it's very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our gravy, and an extension of gravy in the wine world would be Chardonnay. Okay, cool. Now we're thinking about a cranberry sauce, which is tart, which is juicy, which brings liveliness to that dry turkey, right? Because you've got the white meat of the turkey, and then you've got that, it gives you a little mouth watering. Okay, so what wine would be juicy, have that cranberry tartness? In my books, I'm going to say something like, unless you want to try and take a stab at it. Do you want to take a stab at it?
I'm thinking maybe a dry rosé.
Perfect.
I don't know.
Perfect. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're looking at something juicy, something with tart red berries. Other people, if you're a big red wine lover, maybe you're going to do a Pinot Noir, or here in Ontario, Gamay, which in France, the Beaujolais would be the Gamay grape. So you've got, those are three awesome, and they're extensions of that cranberry sauce and that gravy. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It takes a little minute to work your way through it. That's cool. Try it. You want to do another one?
Yeah, let's do another one. Okay, so let's do, because we both, I think, talked about a brisket. Let's talk about a beef brisket.
Okay.
So it's usually got some kind of tomato sauce, I'm thinking, in it.
Some kind of gravy.
Yeah, tomato paste or, yeah.
Yeah. Something that's going to make some sort of richer gravy, saucy situation. Okay. So if you're thinking it's got a tomato base, tomatoes are actually quite acidic, right? If you ever make, but in the gravy that's going to be braising that beef, it's going to be a bit richer. Okay. So what are some of the other flavors in that brisket? What is it going to be? What else are you using in that brisket?
Probably onions and carrots in the pan.
Maybe some bay leaf, maybe some peppercorn, something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got some tomato, bay leaf, peppercorn for a kind of, I don't want to say spicy because it's not heat spicy, but we've got that kind of, this is all working together to make sort of a, not heat spicy, but spice covered spicy, fragrant kind of gravy-ish, rustic thing.
Right.
So for me, I'm going to say, all right, if I've got this richer, peppery, bay leaf, tomatoey, bay leaves and tomatoes, where have I seen those before? Maybe I'm going to Italy, or maybe I know that bay leaves are really nice in California, so maybe something in Santa Barbara. So let's just go with bay leaves, tomatoes, maybe a bit of peppercorn. Maybe there's some rusticity. Perhaps, seems unusual, but maybe a Chianti Classico might work. Sangiovese is the grape in Chianti, and that has it has like a lightly sort of, so Chiantis typically will have this sort of bay leaf, subtle sun-dried tomato when they're poorly made, very tomatoey, but they'll have this bay leaf, this thyme, this rose. They have that kind of note to it. They also have moderate tannins, and when we're talking about braised beef, well, braised beef is going to be a richer meat. It's a beef, of course. So you do have some proteins that do need to have a little bit of the red wine tannin to like work with them. If we were to pair
Oh,
something like a Pinot Grigio, that brisket would just clobber it completely. But you know what you could also do if you want to? Where do we know that braised beef survives really well or works really well? Ossobuco is which is from Piemonte, which is also a
hmm
braised beef. It's not a brisket, it has different flavors, but there's still braised
hmm
beef. You could, depending on the type of braised beef and how your personal family recipe works, you could then go with a Barolo. But when we were talking about the bay leaf and the peppercorn, well, I remember being in Santa Barbara, beautiful space, by the way.
hmm
And you have like these gorgeous wineries. One I know of called, uh, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct, but I think it's Coanta, but it might be Joanta, but Jonata. And
Oh,
they do this beautiful, they have really beautiful kind of like not common for California, but they do
mm.
things like off the beaten stuff. But they had a beautiful Syrah, not inexpensive, very expensive, but they have this beautiful Syrah, and Syrahs naturally have pepper. I hope did I make that sound clear, or was that like a little bit
Yeah,
crazy? Was that good?
I know. No,
Okay,
that was great.
okay. So yeah, you want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay,
Okay, so we did poultry, we did beef. Um, I mean, we could do a ham.
you want to do
That
the
seems
ham?
a little tricky. Yeah, that
Not
seems a little
tricky at all.
tricky.
What
Okay.
flavors normally come with ham?
Well, ham is super salty, and so I think a lot of times there's a sweet glaze that's put on it.
Mm-hmm.
Maple or brown sugar or something along those lines. Sometimes
Absolutely.
mustard.
Yeah, often with mustard. And sometimes people really enjoy putting those pineapple rings on it.
Oh yes.
Some people
Yes.
do, some people don't. It actually, I know it's fighting words when it comes to pizza, but actually I do think ham and pineapple work together because you're right.
Yes,
You have the
they do.
saltiness of the meat and you have the sweet
Hmm
acidity of the pineapple, and they actually
Mm,
just based on their flavor profiles work really nicely together.
yeah.
I'm not a ham and pineapple pizza person, but people in my family are, and I still
Yeah.
love them. So anyway, let's think about that. So we have a salty meat that also
Mm,
ham on itself is salty, but it's also a little bit sweet in and of itself. Okay, cool.
hmm
It's a little bit chewy. Let's say we've got
hmm
this maple or this brown sugar glaze, which loans a sweet and salty element to it. Okay,
Yeah.
so salt is the friend of wine. Salt will always boost the flavor components of wine.
Oh,
It will bring out the
interesting.
fruit in wine. And when we start having things that have a little bit of sweetness, a cardinal rule when it comes to wine is you need to have a wine that's slightly sweeter. Otherwise, your wine will taste bitter, flat, and dull.
Hmm
So you've got two
Okay.
things we're working with here. Salt. Salt
hmm
is a good thing. It's going to bring out the fruit in the wine. But the sweet is going to be a bit, not a challenge, but we just need to be aware of it because you need to have a sweeter wine.
Oh,
So what we will often do is and then if you're going to like dip it in mustard or whatever, which gives it like depending on the strength of the mustard, it could be as hot as a wasabi nose clearing strength, or it could just be a very light ballpark mustard, whatever you'd like. But there's going to be a bit of
hmm
acidity there.
hmm
So I'm going to look at things like what has a touch of sweetness to it? What wine has a touch of sweetness to it? What wine has a little bit of fruit? Even if you're not putting pineapple on your actual ham, what has sort of a
hmm
pineapple with that bright acidity with a little touch of sweetness to it? This one's a tough one.
That is hard. Um, I'm thinking like a sweeter Riesling or
You're so
Gewürztraminer.
you're so good. You're so good. Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to be it doesn't even have to be sweet like dessert wine. It can, because Rieslings naturally have a little bit of fruit notes to them, but they have
Hmm
really high acidity. Just like when you suck on a lemon, even thinking about that, your mouth starts watering. So they've got
Yeah.
that bright acidity to cut through any of that rich meat. The salt in
Mm,
the ham is going to promote more of the fruit in the Riesling. And
okay.
the Riesling does have, some cases, does have, mineral and lemon and lime, but it does, a lot of people will identify pineapple in that,
Mm,
in certain Rieslings. So that works
okay.
beautifully. And if I can put a pause on that, if you think about where I just came from, Alsace, my God,
hmm
those people love pork, whether it comes in the form of bacon or a pork knuckle or a
Oh.
sausage, or like pork is their jam. And you know what the
Mm-hmm.
main wine of Alsace is? Riesling.
Oh. Yeah.
So that's why it works so beautifully. So
Mm.
yes, you're doing so well, Betty. I'm so impressed with you. Yeah, yeah. It can be stressful, but see, this is exactly it. Like you don't wine, and here's the reality too. I'm going to tell you a secret that nobody will
Mm.
ever tell you. Sommeliers want you to think that we are these magic angels, just throwing our food and wine magic dust all over everything, and that we're going to pick the exact beautiful wine to go with that exact beautiful element. When
Mm.
really, truly, and I'm going to put myself out of a job, but 80% of the time, what you're eating and what you're drinking is fine.
Mm.
Now, 10% of the
Mhm.
time, your pairing will be absolutely abysmal. And 10% of the time, it will be euphoric. But 80%
Mm.
of the time, it's fine. It's going to be somewhere
Yeah.
in that range of fine, but it's going to be fine. And
Yeah.
so try not to sweat it. We as humans inherently know what works. It's why we have
Mhm.
peanut butter and jam. It's why we have milk and cookies. It's why we do not have salmon flavored bubblegum, right? What sommeliers want you to think is that we know all the magic touches to food and wine
Mm.
pairing and that it's just going to be great, but most of the time, 80% of the time, it's fine. Now,
Mhm.
that's really it. Like, you don't really, like, you can have some fun. And worst case scenario, if it sucks, well, then you know that for
Mm.
next time. But most of the
Yeah.
time, you're okay. And you saw
Yeah.
there's not always going to be one. Like, I think people get really stressed out about Thanksgiving, about Christmas, about Easter, about Hanukkah, about any kind of experience or dinner or meal where there's many different things happening. You will
Yeah.
never pick one perfect wine. You're going to have
Uh,
turkey. You're going to have cranberry sauce. You're going to have sweet potatoes. You're going to have regular potatoes. You're going to have Brussels sprouts. You're going to, all the things that build up. You're never going to find one wine to match. And as we
yeah.
just illustrated, turkey, you have easily two options. Okay. So or
Mhm.
three, we said, you have your rosé, you have your Chardonnay, and you have your
Mm.
Pinot Noir. But
Mhm.
you don't like, and similarly with your ham, yeah, you could do Riesling. But if you really didn't want to, okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
you could do something like a Northern Italian white, or maybe you do something like a Vouvray from Loire, or maybe you do something like a Verdejo from Spain. Totally fine. You could even get away with a Sauvignon Blanc. No, no harm, no foul. It's not going to be the end of the world. There's never going to be one wine. You're going to be able. It's easier for me, probably more confusing for a new wine drinker. But if you think about wines as characteristics and styles, then it's going to
Mhm.
be better. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. It totally makes sense. And I really loved the kind of the questions that a person can ask themselves, like kind of the exercise that we went through of when they are planning their menu and trying to just have something that is complimentary. I think that that is super helpful because it's something that maybe the average person wouldn't think about, like, oh yeah, but the way that you laid it out makes total sense, and you made it very easy for me to seriously, because it was kind of like, leading, you lead down the road and you just think, oh, well, of course, like, why wouldn't I have thought of that? So, yeah, it's very helpful.
So I think that you can do that for anything: macaroni and cheese, burgers,
Hmm.
sushi. Like, you can do it with anything.
Yeah, yeah, very helpful. Yeah, I can see why you are a wine educator, Erin.
Well, I try.
Yeah,
I just
that's
call myself a
wonderful.
professional drinker.
That's so great. Oh, well, as we kind of wind up today, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about just places that people can connect with you, either online or with your classes too. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on my Substack, which is called Quaintrelle, and Erin Henderson is my name. You can find me on Instagram at it's Erin Henderson. You can find my company and our wine classes at thewinesisters.com. So thewinesisters plural.com. So I'm kind of everywhere. I think
Yeah.
even if you were to
Yeah.
Google Erin Henderson Toronto, I pop up all over the place. So
Okay.
I'm
That's
I'm
good.
kind of a big deal. I'm not at all. But Yeah. Also, an NFL football player named Erin Henderson. So try not to confuse us.
He'll be like, why am I getting wine questions from people?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Aw, that's great. Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your expertise and your knowledge. I think that people are going to walk away with this knowing what to serve and just feeling better about what they are serving with their meal this year. So
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
for having me. I really
Appreciate
appreciate it.
you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you so much.